The early 1940s were a time of brutal warfare, man against man. But what if there were other groups? Pilots would report mysterious aircraft, mostly over Europe. These aircraft were unlike anything we've ever seen. Were they secret Axis aircraft or visitors from another planet? Join us today as we discuss Foo Fighters, not the band, the UFOs.
Welcome back.
To unknown,
Unsolved.
unseen.
Triple U.
Woo! Welcome back, everyone, to episode 27 of the podcast, or welcome if this is your first episode, because we've gotten a lot of new followers. Today, I'm joined by our lovely guest, Kelsey, who was on here for the Sabertooth Cat episode.
Hi, everyone.
So, unfortunately, today, Sage could not make it because we had a hectic weekend. We got new windows on Friday and had to move everything around in the house. A hockey game yesterday and a baby shower today. And because of the baby shower, Sage was making a lot of the quite a bit of food and sweets for it. So, whenever we weren't at stuff this weekend, she was busy making stuff. So, we have not had the time to either write an episode or record. So, luckily, Kelsey, wonderful friend as she is, offered to be my co-host today. So thank you very much for that, Kelsey.
Of course, anytime. It's a fun time being here.
And also the episode that you were on did very well, so I'm very happy to have you back here.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, I
I was
forgot to
wondering
tell
how
you
that
that.
went.
Yeah, no, that did better than a lot of other episodes, so I'm very happy with the outcome there.
Sweet.
I'm going to get into some announcements here. So the first thing is the Windy City Paranormal Fest is coming up. As if any of you listened last week, we were joined by Frankie and Christina from the Windy City Paranormal Fest uh, to do an interview slash episode with them last week, and uh, that went very well. We got to talking about a lot of paranormal stuff, like stories we had, what they're doing, how they're being also inclusive with a lot of what they're doing with their festival, and because of that, you can go check out your tickets and the link in the description, and also you can use code UUU for $5 off the live stream tickets if you want to join them on their live stream of the festival, which we most likely will be doing because, as I mentioned, we were just at a baby shower. That baby is due at the same time as the festival, so I don't think we'll be going. And even better, a portion of the proceeds for the Windy City Parafest, which we did not mention before, will be donated to Greater Than Hate, a coalition of the nation's leading human rights and equality organizations. So, Kelsey, I know you haven't had a chance this week to hear our latest episode. What do you think of that?
Honestly, that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, just Chicago's a bit far away, and
Oh,
we've
yeah.
got a
That's
baby.
a good distance for anyone.
Yeah, but if anyone's interested, we got a $5 off code if you want to join their live stream.
It is nice that they're doing a live stream. I wouldn't expect something to do a
Yeah,
live stream like that.
yeah, and it's running from June 12th to June 15th, so it's a 3-day festival. There's some really big names like Heather Taddy is going to be there. She's from Paranormal State, Alien Highway, and Travel the Dead. Noel and Nicole of the Quite Unusual podcast. Tawny Lewis, who's a paranormal researcher and investigator. So a lot of names in the paranormal. It looks like it's going to be a great time there. Go out and check that out. And then we got the Carbondale UFO game coming up on April 12th. That one now has jerseys available if anyone's interested. We actually secured one of ours, so we will have a Carbondale UFOs hockey jersey, but that's on April 12th in Scranton, PA. along with on April 12th in Hagerstown, Maryland, there will be the Cryptids and Curiosities event. And I'm going to try and do some more posts on events coming up. I don't have as many off the top of my head. I mean, there's Penhurst coming up and the Bigfoot and Brews. But the other announcement I had is our social media. You're going to see some changes in our Instagram if you're following, because we began a lot more followers and we're trying to make it a bit more structured, professional looking, and you guys will hopefully be seeing this week a list of upcoming events and links on where to find the accounts for these events or where to find the events in general. So we're going to be revamping our social media, be a bit more active, and share more with all of you.
That's pretty exciting.
Yeah. Did you see any of our posts this week, Kelsey? I don't know if you.
I've barely been
Yeah,
on
I.
social media at all lately.
After what you told me earlier, I'm not surprised. You've had a hectic week similar to us. Different reasons for it being hectic, but and I get
Yeah,
it.
it's been a ride lately.
Yeah. Well, I hope the ride gets better. Also, won't cut
It
out this.
should.
So, Kelsey, as once again, hope things get better. Hope the ride gets smoother and better.
Thank you. Hopefully it will pretty soon.
You got this.
Absolutely.
And my last announcement I want to go on is if any of you listening have your own podcast or are sorry, if any of you listening are from a podcast or a paranormal researcher, writer, run your own event, feel free to reach out to us if you guys want to do any collabs or events. We will love to, promote everything as you guys may have seen or heard how we talk about other events going on. We're trying to reach out there and talk with more voices in the paranormal sphere, and want to put you guys out there however we can, help you guys out. So if you guys aren't involved in any of that stuff, feel free to reach out to us, and we'd love to do something with you, like how we did with the Windy City Parafest. All right. So with that being said, Kelsey, do you know anything about Foo Fighters?
Just that they're a band. I did not know there was anything else around them.
Do you listen to them at all?
No, not really. I think my dad used to.
Uh, I know my one friend Kyle listen. I believe he listens to them, but he was unavailable today because I was going to ask him for input. But all I know is they're a rock band, but that will come up later. So today we're going to be going back to World War II and exploring the mystery of Foo Fighters. Bum bum bum. You ready for this?
Absolutely. I'm pretty excited to see where this goes.
Hell yeah. So, for context, World War II was a time of some of the most brutal warfare we've ever seen. And with warfare comes advancements in technology. They go hand in hand. World War One, you saw the advancements of tanks and many automobiles. World War II, you see significant advancements in aircraft, aerodynamics, the B 2 rockets that eventually helped us get to space, and all that various, technological stuff. As bad as it is to say, a lot of great things do come out of war, technologically. Specifically, World War One and World War II, we advanced, but at the cost of millions of lives. So, this war was arguably the most extensive use of aircraft in warfare that we've seen, with each side trying to get the edge. This resulted in thousands of aircraft being used in the war and with constant advancements. We saw the first fighter jet in history during this, and with all these aircrafts in the sky, so much could happen. Some of these pilots ended up seeing some things they could not explain. So, you ready to dive into some of the weird things seen, Kelsey?
I am. I want to know what they were seeing up there.
Ooh, it's some wacky stuff.
I don't doubt that.
During the war, pilots would start to see strange craft. And these craft were things that could not be explained, especially for what was available at the time. So, now what were these crafts? That's what we'll be discussing. We won't be talking about any UFOs or flying saucers, though, today. Well, kind of yes, kind of no, because in World War II, the terms weren't even coined yet. Flying saucer and UFO didn't come into the mainstream until the late 40s, early 50s. 1947 is when flying saucer term was coined by Kenneth Arnold's encounter and UFO, I believe, was coined in the 50s. So these are relatively newer terms when you think about in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, interesting. What did they used to call them?
Well, in this case, Foo Fighters. In other cases, there's some really old ones that are, people don't look at as much because they don't call them UFOs or whatnot, but they call them airships. Like that's what they call like blimps, like the Hindenburg and stuff. Those were airships. In this case, they would talk about mysterious airships. Like I have one like written down for a later episode about I think it's called the Keslow airship, which is in New Zealand, and this was before UFO. I believe this was before UFO term was coined, but it was an airship scene. There's one, and I believe it is Albania or somewhere in the Balkans, where in like 1917 during the First World War, they saw a mysterious airship. Did they call it a UFO, Foo Fighter, or flying saucer? Nope. A mysterious airship.
Interesting.
Yeah, so like if you look for stuff before the term UFO, you have to look for other terms, or somebody else had
Mhm.
to have looked it up first. So yeah, that relatively recent terms.
Yeah,
So
that's pretty neat. I didn't know that.
yeah, the more you know. But that's
Yeah.
one thing I saw is why these are called Foo Fighters. One of the reasons is UFO just wasn't a term, and neither was flying saucer. So they had to have something else.
I wonder what they were shaped like.
I do go into that a little bit coming up, and that's an interesting thing.
Okay.
So, throughout the war, both sides of the war would report seeing these crafts. The reports of these crafts varied heavily. They were described sometimes as fireballs that were green, red, orange, or yellow. In the European theater, these fireballs would typically follow aircraft or speed off at incredible speeds. But in the Pacific, they were known sometimes to just float in the air, which back then was that's already remarkable enough to have a floating craft because you don't have helicopters like today back then, and you have propeller based aircraft instead. And some would
Yeah.
then describe these more as actual crafts with more details and not just fireballs, such as a glowing disc or being cigar shaped, or and then there were the spheres and globe shaped ones too, like orbs.
It is pretty interesting.
Yeah, and I don't know how much you know about like UFO shapes, but like in UFO shapes, there you got your like flying disc ones, your flying like half eclipse looking ones, or well crescent moon. I don't know why I call that eclipse. Crescent moon looking ones, your triangle shaped crafts, your sphere shaped crafts, your egg ones, your did I already say triangle?
Yeah.
Yeah, triangle again. Cigar shaped. That's what I was going to say next. Cigar shaped. Occasionally a
So
T
what
shaped one.
what would a cigar shaped one kind
I
of be? I haven't heard that before.
I'm thinking now this one actually comes up a lot, but it's always weird, like how they describe it because I always question what cigar shape looks like. And
It makes me Oh, sorry.
go ahead.
It makes me think of the rocket they released in Austin Powers. Have you ever seen that?
You know what? I actually have not. That was disappointing of me. So I'm going to shoot
Oh,
you this real quick over Discord, what it looks like, an example of one. And the thing is, this can also be all perspective. So that is an example. I know it's a very, very bad example.
okay. That kind of looks like a really skinny blimp.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it. Or like, um, I don't know what this is linked to, but here's another one. So sometimes they're like actually like you see what I mean, like cigar shaped, or sometimes like in the
Yeah.
first one that could easily be perspective of maybe like a profile view of a triangle or a disc.
Yeah, that could be a different, like a side view of a ship rather than
And
an
also,
actual cigar shaped one.
yeah, so that's an interesting aspect of these. So UFOs come in all shapes and sizes, which is one of the really more peculiar things about UFOs, in my opinion. And so in this
Yeah, it's
case,
pretty interesting.
in this case, we see a few that we're familiar with, and especially the one thing that you see a lot of is lights on crafts. These craft were spotted by Allied, Russian, German, and Japanese pilots during the war. The stories from German and Japanese pilots typically came from pilots that were captured. And the term Foo Fighter comes from a comic cartoon character named Smokey Stover, who said, "Where there's Foo, there's fire," and he was a Foo Fighter. So a pretty innocent name that spawned these, because I guess the airmen started calling them Foo Fighters, and then they say stuff like, "Oh, there's Foo," so yeah, they became Foo Fighters. Not
Neat.
really a complicated thing. It's a uh, it's not as interesting whenever I actually got to reading it.
Yeah.
So
I think it's
now,
crazy that there's enough of them for it to be a commonly coined term during
yeah,
the war.
that's where this gets interesting. So are you ready to get into some of the specific encounters that people reported seeing?
Absolutely. Tell me about
All right. So we're going to start with the most notable of all. This is from the 415th Night Fighter Squadron. This was an American squadron in Europe. They were one night flying north of Strasbourg along the Rhine in late November. They were patrolling the France Germany border for German fighters at night. So, a Bristol bow fighter piloted by Lieutenant Ed Schluter, I think that's how you say it right. God, I hate how many names I butcher on here, and I say that every time.
not too many people know the difference. I
um,
would never know.
I have a German friend who commented on my episode about German stuff and was like, "You do butcher quite a few of these words." Thanks. Thanks for letting me know. He told me I should ask him one time on how to properly pronounce a lot of these names. Might have to bring him on at some point so he can correct me.
Yeah, so you could correct pronunciations. That's
But yeah,
it's
he
funny that one person knows.
he DM. Well, we have a five I think it's. Let me check real quick. German listeners are a good portion of our actual listener base. Because
That's really cool, actually.
if I go to my audience and check it out real quick, German listeners are at 3.3%. I know one of them, but based on the numbers and locations I've seen, there's more than just him there. There are other people listening. So I need to figure out what they how I'm getting German listeners. Like I love it, but German,
Yeah, I
I
guess maybe you do need to work on your pronunciations then.
yeah. I Our top things are United States at like 86%, followed by the British at sorry. Hopefully that is not considered offensive. But United Kingdom gets a little over 5%, followed by Germany, um, US Virgin Islands, which okay, and Australia. So
Interesting.
all English speaking countries, then there's Germany.
Yeah. I mean, you've had episodes based in each location, right?
Yeah, we did have one in the United Kingdom. Nothing in the US Virgin Islands. There is
Oh.
one good conspiracy out of the US Virgin Islands. You know what it is?
Hmm.
Epstein. That's where his island is.
I did not know his island was out there.
I learned it when I was trying to look up the US Virgin Islands, and I was looking up all of the stuff, and I'm like seeing where the person is, and then I see Little St. James Island. I'm like, wait, that's not. And then I looked up. I'm like, oh, it is.
Oh boy.
And
That's lovely.
we have done one Australia episode.
Yeah.
So yeah, do have
It was
episodes on
the
all the location.
Buford kids, right?
Yeah, Beaumont.
Oh, Beaumont, sorry.
That one was a big deep dive.
Yeah, that was
Some
a good episode though. I
There are
like that.
episodes I forgot that I've even done at this point, and we're only at 27, and there's some I still gotta remember I did. Like I will forget sometimes that I did a Dover Demon episode already. An episode I kind of wish I forgot because I didn't care much in it was Hollow Earth, but apparently people like the Hollow Earth episode. I'll take it, but like guys, that's an episode I thought I did pretty bad on. Why do you like it? Give some love to my Sabretooth Cats episode.
They'll probably be getting there soon.
The Sabretooth Cat one is actually not far behind, so it did do well, so I'm happy with that. But like Hollow Earth, just our podcast has ebbs and flows and views, and Hollow Earth just is like a spike around the other episodes of a similar number. And I'm like,
I feel like Hollow Earth is a common topic in nowadays.
yeah, there is also some ties to the Hollow Earth in this episode, actually. I just realized.
That's exciting.
So let's get back to this, though, actually, because I didn't even get past naming who's in this plane.
Yeah,
My B people. I'm also just trying to
it's all
extend
good.
time on this because I don't have as much to say here because I rushed this episode.
Things happen.
Life happens, babies are born, hockey games are played, and windows are replaced.
Absolutely.
Win-
All of the above.
Windows, babies,
happens.
hockeys. That's what weekends are about, apparently.
That is a very full weekend. You're hitting all of the areas.
Yeah, I've only had like 4 or 5 hours of free me time this week, which is not much.
That
Just
is not good.
just go
Hopefully you'll
back
have
to
more
work
coming up this
tomorrow.
week.
I can't wait for tomorrow. Back to work, back to the grind.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to that either.
Got the Sunday scaries.
Yeah, I have vegetated all day and I don't want to go back to everything tomorrow.
I feel that. But not going to say anything about my work because I know some people on my work have found this.
That's fair.
I love you all in case you're listening. You're all great people. So back to this fighter, the Bristol Bowfighter, piloted by Lieutenant Ed Schluter, radar operated by Lieutenant Donald J. Myers, and Observer Intelligence Officer Fred Ringwald. So 3 people in the plane. Weather conditions that night were partly cloudy, and there was a quarter moon present. So it wasn't a full moon that like made everything bright. There'd be some reflection from the moon, but not much with the quarter moon. And during this, Ringwald spotted 8 to 10 glowing fiery orange lights on the left side of the wing flying at high speed. So we already got a interesting thing being spotted. They checked the Allied radar and found nothing appeared on the radar. So these were not, according to the radar, they were not solid aircraft. Nothing that they could detect. And they were looking for German fighters, so these did not appear as German fighters.
Interesting. It didn't show up on any scans?
Not for what they had back then in World War II. It would have been radars what would have found them, and radar pinged nothing there, which is unusual.
Yeah. Wonder what they were made of.
Yeah, and that's something that I've thought of too. Is like if they were like this, then what do you make? I get actually thinking about it. I believe stealth aircraft today is made in a way where like radar just goes over them and doesn't ping back. So maybe, man, I didn't think of this. Maybe that's built in a similar way.
It could have been.
I didn't think of that actually. But yeah, and that's how I believe some stealth craft is made in a way where like the angles on the angle material on the craft it allows for stuff not to ping back. All right.
Pretty smart.
Yeah. So, man, I did not think of that. Good thinking, Kelsey.
Thanks.
That's a hard hitting journalism we bring you on for.
What I'm best at, I guess.
What'd you say?
Said it's what I'm best at, I guess.
You're going to be a UFO journalist one of these days. Mark my words.
If you could see my notes right now, I'd already be there.
I love the can-do attitude. So in this case, Schluter, man, I hope I'm not butchering his name. He turned the plane to head towards the lights. They assumed they were German crafts or weapons and were prepared to engage them in combat. But as they turned, the lights sped off and disappeared. No traces of these Foo Fighters were found. They kept the sighting secret for a while, fearing being ostracized and criticized for reporting something so strange like that and being looked down upon because, I mean, if I'm back then when UFOs and that type of stuff isn't a big deal, be like, yo, I saw strange, fiery, glowing orbs in the sky. I can see why you wouldn't tell anybody.
Yeah, I can fully understand. Were they sleep deprived in any way, shape, or form?
It does not appear so from what was seen, from what was
Okay.
reported. They were in sound mind and judgment from what people could tell from afterwards.
Okay.
And these were respectable people, according to what people have mentioned. They, as many things like this go, the secret didn't stay secret for long, and eventually word got out. They even described to one person that they were scared shitless when they saw these crafts. So that's a very good reaction to something like this. I mean, I'd be scared shitless too. And scared shitless is
Yeah,
like in quotes as what they verbatim said apparently.
I would probably shit myself if I saw that.
Yeah. So many.
I
Oh, what were you saying?
Oh, nothing.
Okay. Many would attest to their professionalism of this group, insinuating that they would not go making this up. So that was very unlikely. The story would make headlines though because the 415th Night Fighter Squadron were joined by Associated Press reporter Robert C. Wilson for a New Year's Eve thing in 1944, and then on January 2nd, 1945, headlines in the Associated Press about Foo Fighters were on the front pages. So you go from being nothing to the front pages just in 2 months.
Yeah, getting a lot of press very fast.
Yeah, and then I found online, oh, there's so many news clippings of these from after that. Various sightings from France and Germany about weird balls of fire being new Nazi weapons. They were a lot of times called balls of fire chasing fighters.
It makes me wonder if they finally, because someone else talked about it and it was accepted, if they finally decided to talk about what they saw, or if they also wanted to just kind of say something to get in the papers.
So that is actually, well, first off, a lot of people started coming out about these afterwards. So people would bring that up. Like they would tell their own stories following this.
Mhm.
So let me go back to my pages. I was looking at some of the news clippings. I have 5 page. I have actually like from the source. I found like 10 pages worth of news clippings about this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're all from the 40s. So
That's impressive.
the story spread on. So sightings would persist after this, and more people would come forward with stories from before as well. And the term "Foo Fighter" spread amongst the airmen of the like Allied forces in France and Germany. So on December 17th of 1944, same year as the first sighting that we talked about, a pilot was flying by Breisach, Germany, and was flying at around 800 feet, which is pretty low. He saw 5 or 6 flashing green and red lights in a T formation that were chasing him and closing in on him at his 8 o'clock, and at an altitude that he estimated about 1,000 feet. And as they got closer to him, they then disappeared without any explanation.
Mm,
And that's how a lot of these end: is the either they disappear without explanation or speed off at incredible speeds.
that's interesting.
I know, because also these that implies that there is a good control of the craft, and that like to an extent they're chasing your craft. There's some intelligence behind it
Mhm.
because the weather
But if
from
they're chasing, why would they just
I don't,
flee?
they could be just observing. None of these crafts are known to have ever attacked any like human craft that we know of.
Mhm.
So to everything we have, they never like actually attacked. And only 5 days later, there were more sightings by 2 separate crews. Actually, one of them was in Haguenau, France. They were flying when they saw 2 orange glowing lights rise from the earth and ascend up to 10,000 feet, and then started tailing their plane for about 2 minutes during all of this. The lights would then fly side by side with the plane, so both lights would be on one side of the plane, and then peel off at a fast speed and disappear. So similar to the last
And
one.
and they didn't see like, if they came up right next to both sides of the plane, they didn't see
Well, I
what it
think
was beyond the light?
they both came to the one side of the plane, both lights, and
Oh.
I don't think they could see. I don't know how far away it was. And that's something
Oh,
that's
gotcha.
never well described is how big these fireballs were, like, because of perspective.
Yeah.
And that's one
Are they
problem that
massive and blinding or, like, smaller?
I don't know, because 'cause I've seen plenty of reports, like, we talked in the Alaskan Triangle, there was small orbs that I forget if I talked about, but, like, one guy estimated it was only, like, a 9-foot diameter, I think it was something like that, and then there was a Japanese airline flight that saw a large ship and then 2 smaller ones that would go into the large ship and leave it or something like that. And,
That's
perspective is
crazy.
you see various sizes and various perspectives. The next sighting, I'm going to actually go back in time because I found these in different orders. In September of 1941, well before these 1944 sightings, two sailors on a ship transporting British troops in the Indian Ocean noticed a strange globe glowing with greenish lights. They watched it follow them for about half an hour. So this one is seen by boat, but followed the boat and then left. And then
Huh.
another is from another member of the 415th, Lieutenant Wallace Gould, or Gould, Wallace Gould, I believe that's how you say it, described being followed by lights until they zoomed away at up to 20,000 feet. Not much else was said on this one. And we then go on to Lieutenant Samuel A. Krasny, who had an experience when he was flying and was pursued by a glowing red cigar-shaped craft. So in this case, he does have a shape of a cigar-shaped craft, and he would try to outmaneuver this craft with evasive maneuvers to lose it, but all failed, and the ship kept up, or the craft kept up every single time. It eventually flew off and disappeared after several minutes, but he was like panicking, trying to get it off of him, and it was not working.
Yeah, that would scare me,
Yeah. And then,
definitely.
well, looking at some of these news clippings, I see one about sorry, gonna pause for a moment while we reach this. So there's one about seeing them over Japan. Sorry, not over Japan, over China. Well, the Japanese were bombing the area because Japan invaded China during the war, and this was in January 8th of 1945, which is interesting.
Mhm.
But in all these cases, from what I can tell, none of these ever appeared on any radar.
That's just crazy to me that nothing popped up at all.
Yeah,
Like,
and
not a single one of them.
I'm just skimming through some of these articles again that I had looked at briefly. There's so many of them. Like I have 5 different pages open right now, and all of them have 10 pages, 9 to 10 pages of notes. So this is like almost 50 pages of news clippings about these.
Wow.
Like in January 11th of 1945, some of these mysterious lights were seen in eastern Iowa, which is very much different than, the German or, well, the European or Pacific theater of the war. That's back in America.
Yeah, it's a good distance away, and they still look the same.
Yeah. And a lot of these people think that they were like new Nazi weapons because nobody was really thinking aliens back then. They were thinking Nazi weapons. One of them is
Yeah.
it's called Adolf's Fireballs. I don't know how I feel about that. Adolf's Fireballs.
That is a name.
It is definitely
Um,
name.
that's interesting.
Yeah, that's these are just like there are hundreds of articles written on all of this. And like some of these things are really hard to read because these are scanned newspapers.
Mhm.
And it's just I guess I didn't realize how big of a phenomenon this was back then. But like it talks about how these dog flyers, like planes can't keep up with them. They might be German weapons. Nobody knows what they are. They might be explained as like St. Elmo's fire, which I'll talk about later. But these are just it's incredible now that I'm looking at this again, just how much people wrote on these. And like, let's see, here's one from January 20th, 1995. I can't read a single word of this scan, but mysterious light puzzles Sweden. So we're seeing these in Sweden too in January of 1945.
They are all over the world.
Yeah, that's
Really makes me wonder if the aliens are just watching whenever we're in chaos.
I mean, there's a lot to talk about that and other people's alien encounters where sometimes they say they've come since the invention of the nuclear bomb. Because if aliens are like this, race looking at us, they had to have known we were making the bombs with the Manhattan Project at the time. Which after the nuclear explosions, that's whenever you see more alien encounters. And with that, you'd be a lot more interested whenever a race harnesses the atomic bomb.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Wonder if they think we're catching up to their technology, because clearly they are way ahead of us on their technological advances.
Oh yeah. And then some of them mention like some of the aliens allegedly tell people that they're here to try and guide us from nuclear annihilation because they don't want us to blow ourselves up.
Yeah, I hope we don't do that.
Yeah, I hope so too.
I could see it happening, but let's hope we don't.
Yeah, you can only wait and hope, sadly, because we are not empowered to stop any of that. However, if any of you listening
Yep.
are empowered to stop that, do it. Don't drop the bombs. When I say do it, I
Yeah.
mean don't do anything.
Yeah. Please don't make warfare get to that point.
Yeah.
I'm just living my life and going to parks regularly and trying to enjoy what we have left of this planet.
I'm just a silly little guy that doesn't want to experience mass nuclear holocaust.
Yeah, and then all the fallout around it.
Yeah, I'm just a silly little guy. Just don't do it, please.
Hmm,
But
just a little cool dude.
back on the topic of all this, Foo Fighters and sightings. I got two more sightings to talk about. One
Let's
where
hear 'em.
American bombers over Tokyo sighted two on one of their bombing runs. Not much details on that one. And then the last one is a former U.S. senator was even a witness. Senator Ted Stevens had a bright glowing craft pursue him and he couldn't lose it, much like Lieutenant Krasny's experience that we talked about earlier. The craft never showed up on radar, and he kept the secret for a while, but did tell another senator about it, and this eventually got out. But there is a U.S. senator who was a pilot during World War II who experienced this.
I was gonna ask if he was a pilot or how he kind of experienced that.
Yep, he was a pilot in World War II, and he had witnessed one, which that was crazy. So he said, like I was flying, and there was an object next to me. I couldn't get rid of it. I slowed up. It was there. I sped up. It was there. I would dive. It would be there. I called. Nothing on radar.
Huh.
Yeah, so that was a story told to Harry Reid, who is, and this came from Republican Senator Ted Stevens, whose experience as a World War II pilot. He was a World War II bomber pilot. So this was shared during the at the U.S. Capitol, and I guess this was a big deal because he would be a senator at the time when UFOs were becoming a big craze.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's what I have for the notable sightings. There's so many others out there. I don't want to go into every single one because this is a mass phenomenon that was seen. As you've seen, I mentioned some of the Pacific and then Sweden, I guess in Iowa as well, and other parts of the war. So, like, this was a widespread phenomenon.
Yeah, it sounds like it was fully global.
Yeah. So, you ready to go into some of the potential explanations?
Yeah.
All right. So there's many theories and possible explanations for what Foo Fighters may or may not be. There are many different possibilities, explanations, and um, others. Other ideas. And are you ready to go over each of them?
Yeah.
So the first one that could be a misidentified weather balloons. That is what they claim about the Battle of Los Angeles, which is another alleged UFO incident during World War II. Deserves its own full episode because that's a crazy one. But based on maneuvers and other traits, this is highly unlikely that a weather balloon can't keep up with 200 miles per hour.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like a likely one.
Yeah, or nor do they glow like that in formation with others.
No. Do weather balloons even have more than a single light on them?
I don't think so. And I don't think they're like, oh, sorry, I need to crack my knuckles. I don't think
Yeah, you're
they're
good.
fiery glowing orbs as what these are described. They're not fireballs.
No.
Fireball. Dun 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 dun. Dun. I had to.
I keep thinking of the liquor fireball every time you
That's
say it.
that's why I think so too. So the next thing is battle fatigue, which goes with your sleep deprivation you talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So this is which pilots or other soldiers were so fatigued by all that they were doing and experiencing in the war that they would start seeing things. But we're talking about multiple people seeing many of these in various areas and many similar sightings with similar characteristics. When many of these pilots were evaluated, such as the 415th, they were not seen as individuals who were suffering from battle fatigue. So they don't really keep much of that as a like they don't think that's what happened, but they did explore it and they didn't find much to back it up.
Good they explored that, because that would be, and as you heard earlier, that's my first thought. If they were just so exhausted they started hallucinating. But if they were evaluated,
Yep.
that kills that theory.
Yeah, I know. And the next is St. Elmo's fire. Have you ever heard of that?
I've heard of it, but I don't quite know what it is.
So I looked up temporary, like real quickly. I didn't do too much into it because I was running out of time. This is an electrical discharge from planes or boats that you can see, and it is a bright light in the sky. So this would cause the lights in the sky that we're talking about, and could be the explanation of multiple UFO sightings. Because St. Elmo's light is a known fact that that is an actual thing. So we're not talking about a hypothetical theoretical thing. However, this would have to be a light attached to something, not a continuous glowing fireball that has a seeming intelligence behind it in movements that are unlike any other craft known at the time.
And follows other crafts.
Yep. So, you, I hate to be breaking down each of these on the improbableness of them each, but I gotta debunk the potential debunks.
Yeah, that doesn't seem probable to me either.
Yeah.
Maybe like a couple of them could have been that.
Yep. And that's
Um,
some of these explanations I'm giving here could be some of them, but there's a lot of cases where it can't be.
yeah, it can't be for all of them.
Yeah, like the Ted Stevens one where it keeps following him as he dives, ascends, and whatnot. It's not on radar unless there's like St. Elmo's fire on his wing. Then there's no way,
Yeah,
and it wouldn't be
it's
a
just not
constant
possible.
orb.
No.
So another suggested is light reflecting off of ice crystals. Not much more on this besides that's what a possibility and what we've already said on why it most likely isn't. And then there's flares that could be coming from planes. Once again, doesn't fit more of the complicated sightings. And
Yeah.
we move on to there are some sightings that could be a lot of like what we're talking about here. And you could have maybe one that could be flares or it could be St. Elmo's light. That's the most probable for some of these. Maybe light reflection from ice crystals or a weather balloon in one or two of these cases. But there's so many that just cannot be.
It's just not explainable.
And then there's also the possible explanations of misidentified stars or swamp gas, like many UFO sightings in the 50s and 40s and 60s, but once again, wouldn't describe a larger portion of these. And then we move on to the more interesting possible explanations. This is where I think you'll find it a bit more interesting. Actual and speculative Nazi weapons. So, do you know anything about like Nazi weapons and technology?
Beyond the gas chambers, I do not.
Okay.
And like mustard gas.
So the Nazis were, for their credit, they tried a lot of things technologically for warfare, and they had some advancements in it, like the V2 rockets jets, like fighter jets. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that's where the first fighter jets came from, was Nazis. They really did what they could to try and win the war. And that's what happens in wars. You try and, get the one up from the other. I mean, uh, what's this? Oh my goodness. I'm trying to. Einstein was originally German. So, there is a German mind who was a big part of coming up with the nuclear bomb, but he did it for America instead. So they're,
which thankfully he did.
yeah. But, you look at it, these come from people with, these advancements that really shape a lot of today came from war. So some sightings could have been potentially from rocket powered comet fighters that were significantly faster than other planes and could possibly appear as fireballs in the sky due to their speed. So, as I said, rocket powered fighters. These were German rocket powered fighters. So that's way faster than a propellered plane.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a
You know,
actual thing.
could it have been, you know how some missiles are able, once they lock in on a target, they follow that target?
Yeah,
Could it have been something along early developments of that? And then
potentially.
eventually they stop following the target?
It could very much be, if you think about it, because we don't know to the full extent of what Nazis were doing. We know a lot of it, but like a rocket powered fighter was way advanced for the time. I don't think we had anything like heat seeking, anything even remotely close to that. But who knows if we had something, or the Nazis had
Mhm.
something like to start with. But heat seeking missiles, let me see. I'm actually just going to Google that because I didn't think of that. See, Kelsey,
I don't
once
know
again,
when they came out.
hard hitting journalism like that is what I like. Let me see. When did heat
Should I,
seeking?
check out a new career path?
You know, could you very much could. Oh, 1947. A Navy physicist named Bill McLean took it upon himself to build a better system, a missile that would seek out the heat from enemy aircraft engine systems. 1947. We're talking 1944.
Yeah, so right around that, time period, it could have
So
been testing.
I didn't think you could have technology that could do that back then, but I guess you could. So I will, take back any criticism I had on that idea, Kelsey, but that is a good idea.
Thank you.
Okay. So you've already thought of two things that I would have never thought of. Damn. So back on this, besides like realistic things like the comet and the V2 rocket that we know about, there's other things that are not proven, speculative inventions that are more on the fringe and not proven. Some some of these come from Renato Vesco, an Italian UFO investigator and writer. He is an alleged aeronautical engineer during the war, and he was younger, so he didn't have all clearances, but that's what he claims he was. Nothing to really back that up from what I could find. He claims there were secret Nazi crafts, such as the Feuerball, German for fireball, which that's what I'll refer to it as, and the Kugelblitz. Kugelblitz? Kugelblitz. I think. I don't know. Once again, sorry, Lucas, if I'm butchering these. So the fireball was allegedly matched many descriptions of many of the Foo Fighters that people saw, and when it would get hit and penetrate its first layer of armor, it would speed off in another direction to get away. But in all
Huh.
these cases, the Allies are not shooting these crafts. No, I don't think there's any report of actually hitting any of these crafts. So those are two possible things. I didn't look much on the Kugelblitz either. But then there is the Der Glocken, aka the Bell, which is another alleged Nazi craft that is shaped as a bell, like from a clock tower. This one has a lot of information on it, linked to Antarctica, the Hollow Earth, Agartha, and can be its own other episode. So yeah, there's a Hollow Earth thing I was talking about.
Gotcha.
And then the last possible explanation we have here is that they are aliens, or UFOs, or UAPs, as they're now called. Which you're familiar with, UFOs and whatnot. So the idea is that these are actually aliens visiting us and watching the war and basically monitoring us, whether benevolently or malevolently.
So that makes me think of, you know how there is that conspiracy theory where planet Earth is just kind of a reality TV show to another galaxy?
Yeah, or I've seen also maybe a zoo or nature preserve that they don't touch,
Yeah. So were they just here recording us
potentially,
for
or
their own entertainment?
that could be it, or they could just be studying us, like not interfering. Like how
Yeah.
we do nature documentaries or scientific expeditions, and we try and observe and not touch, make our presence
Mhm.
not known, and like if they're like we're a sentient being, we're sentient civilization. So if they're seeing a sentient civilization get close to nuclear power and space, like at least touching space, then I would think they would want to monitor that.
Yeah, probably. And I wonder if like them chasing could be them kind of testing our response.
Yeah, and see how we react to them if we're actually hostile or not.
Yeah, what we would do.
Or they just got too close, or they just wanted to see what our fighting maneuvers are like. It's so many possible explanations.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm
I
that's
fully believe the alien theory.
and when you think of the alien theory, there's nothing. It's harder to disprove than others,
Oh, absolutely.
and that's part of the
You don't
reason.
have like unless you just straight up say aliens aren't real.
Yep.
y-
Which like I've railed against this now twice on the podcast, and I'll rail against it again. The Condon report, which was overlook of Project Blue Book and stuff by the U.S. government, when they looked at a bunch of cases that could not be explained, they had the already predisposition that the answer couldn't be aliens. So therefore, those over 100 cases that could not be explained, they had to be unknown weather phenomenon that we've never seen before.
Ah,
Over a
so they're
hundred.
probably aliens.
Yeah, I'm really curious on what it is because, like I said last week, J. Allen Hynek's book, The UFO Experience, he was hired by the government as a skeptic to look into a lot of UFO sightings, and by the sounds of it, he's kind of a believer by the end, and he hates the Condon report because it just is like because we know it can't be an alien, therefore, hey, that's not an option. And when they present it with something they can't explain, not an alien because it's not an option, which is something interesting with like Bigfoot and the Patterson Gimlin film. Which do you know what that is, Kelsey?
I do not.
Do you know that film of Bigfoot walking through the clearing where it like
Yes.
looks at the camera? That's the Patterson Gimlin film. Some people who analyzed it went in with a predisposition that it can't Bigfoot doesn't exist, therefore it can't be an option, which skews your results, in my opinion. I think
Oh, it
that's a
absolutely does.
I think that's
If
a
you're gonna
very
look into
dishonest.
something, your mind has to be open.
Yep. That's why like debunking is good because you need to come with that mindset. You can't say Bigfoot's real, so therefore this has to be Bigfoot, or Bigfoot's not real, therefore it's not an option, or same with aliens. You can't come in with that viewpoint, in my opinion.
Yeah, you have to consider it because I mean, you look at everything else and the rest. Yeah, it could be a one off here and there, a couple of them, but not all of these encounters. You're gonna tell me that ice crystals are gonna follow you and your maneuvers and then speed off, or a weather balloon's gonna do that?
Or St.
No.
Elmo's light, the St.
Yeah,
Elmo's fire, which is connected to physical things, is moving at a way that no thing currently can physically move. Yeah, sure thing, Chief. Sure thing.
yeah. It's just not feasible.
Exactly. And that's one thing I just get annoyed with is like whenever you it's always a tough thing to talk about, and that's why I like talking about it on this podcast because it's hard to go one way or the other always. There's always good arguments, in my opinion, on each side. Generally, there's better arguments um when it comes to I'm trying to think of it. The debunking side, you typically have a lot better arguments, but still there's a lot of times you see stuff that's flawed.
Like here.
Yep. But this is where it's actually going to be interesting. With all this going on, the Army Air Command did an investigation during this, but that was unfortunately lost and nobody knows where it is. And then,
Oh,
yep, that's a big oh moment. But in
yeah.
1953, the CIA convened a panel of experts and they couldn't come to a definitive explanation. This was known as the Robertson panel. They explored many of the more realistic explanations we talked about above, but they couldn't come to a concrete conclusion on what this was. So rather than outright debunking and saying this wasn't a thing, they had to throw in the towel and be like, "We can't explain what this is."
At least they said they can't explain it rather than
Yeah, I'm just double checking this. The Robertson panel. Let me look at it again. The Ro- yeah, so the Robertson panel was also looking at other stuff as well. They recommended that a public education campaign should be undertaken to order to reduce public interest in the subject, which I don't think is a good idea. But according to what I found, the Robertson panel, I'm just going to double check with my um on. Let me just see this real quick. I believe it was on the man. Which source had it? Sorry for the lapse in talking real quick. It's
that's
somewhere in
alright.
here I found. Man, all my sources are all over the place. Some of them are better, some of them are worse sources, like always. But the Robertson panel allegedly didn't come to a good conclusion. I mean, it's also hard right now because I forgot to turn on the I forgot to turn on the light in the office. Oh yeah, here it is. Yeah, the Robertson panel, named for its chairman, Caltech physicist Howard P. Robertson, offered no official conclusion for the Foo Fighters, and they were trying to see if it constituted a national security threat. This is from
That's a
this.
great response to it being or trying to figure out if it's a national security threat.
Yep, and that was from the Smithsonian Magazine.
Hmm.
So, Kelsey, it's time for the final thoughts on this. What do you think of the Foo Fighters?
I'm thinking the Foo Fighters are most likely aliens just watching us, seeing what we're doing.
What did you think of the not potential Nazi secret weapons, though? Because that's the only, my opinion, that's the only one that might have any credibleness to it.
That could just kind of like the rest of the theories. That could be some of them, but I don't know if it's all of them.
Or good, yeah.
You know?
I like that. I gotta say, I think I have kind of aligned with yours. I think there was quite a few that were probably, there were probably some out there that are St. Elmo's fire or something like that, and a few of those. But those ones we talked about, I don't think many of those were that. Especially when you look at some happened in Japan, China, Sweden. I don't think those were Nazi. They have the chance of being a Nazi secret craft. I think that is a possibility, but I do lean more on the alien side of things.
Yeah. I don't think a Nazi secret craft would have made it to Iowa either.
I don't think so on that one either. Yeah, that one is just one that threw me out when I was looking through these news articles. I'm like, oh, didn't see that. And the first time I looked at these, because also on each of these pages of news clippings, I was talking how they're like almost 50 pages. Some of them have 4 news clippings per page. So there is like,
That's a lot of clippings.
there's almost like 100 news clippings here. It does say
Holy
where each
cow.
is from originally, but like I could not read all of them.
Yeah.
And let's see, yeah, and here's another one where um a more seen in Japan by the sounds of it, but it's interesting just how many weird reports there are of these. A lot of these are over Germany and France, though. In the end,
Mhm.
so I think that is about it that I have. So, in conclusion, the Foo Fighter phenomenon happened almost 100 years ago, and it was something that we still don't have a clear explanation today. Mysterious lights and craft were seen above areas of warfare and outside of that, all within the early 40s to coincide with World War II. Were these explainable phenomenon? Were they secret Nazi weapons? Or were they aliens? That's for you guys to decide. And if you find this interesting, let us know what you think on it. I think that's, well, actually, no, there's one last thing, pop culture on this. There is a pop culture element to this that many of you might know. There is a popular rock band called Foo Fighters whose name is based on Foo Fighters, like the phenomenon. Why they named it that,
It,
I could not find, or I didn't really look too much into it, but yeah, there is a band named the Foo Fighters after this phenomenon.
it's pretty cool that they named themselves after It's phenomenal. Kind of gives me a different look at them.
Yeah, it's also annoying because it's a big band, so when I look for sources for this, I keep finding stuff on the band.
Yeah, that makes sense. That part of the research would be frustrating.
Yeah, it was kind of frustrating, but I got through it.
Good.
But I
Good.
think that's about it that I have for today's episode. Kelsey, anything you want to promote or shout out here?
Just a shout out to Frank for having me again.
Well, I thank you very much for that, and I want to give a shout out to you for being here and on such late notice.
Anytime, honestly.
Well, I texted you late last night because the other people who I wanted to check weren't able to make it, and the other people I want to save for some later episodes specifically, and don't want to overuse some people. I don't really care about overusing you, Kelsey.
That's fair.
Your
I don't
episode
blame you
did
there.
well. Actually,
What was that?
your episode did well, and I hope this
That's
one
good.
does too. Also, the episode with Billy also did well. So you guys are our first two personal guests, and those episodes do well. So I'm hoping to see you guys more often here.
I'd love to be on as much as you want to have me.
That's
This
what
is fun.
that's what I like to hear. So then I'm going to do my normal spiel at the end. I just clap my hands. I think you could hear that in the background a little bit, but if you guys are liking what you're hearing, go follow us on Instagram, and when we make a blue sky, we'll let you know too. But the Instagram is in the bio. Go, follow on Instagram, leave comments, share with your friends. And if you're really liking the podcast, which I highly recommend to do this, if you're on Spotify, follow, rate, all that stuff. Every little bit matters. The more rates, the more follows and likes you get on these platforms, the more the stuff is spread. I've seen some upticks in that. So if you are a dedicated listener and are coming back, please leave a rate. We always love the 5 stars. That helps us out greatly. And if you are a friend of Kelsey's that just hearing for the first time, check out the rest of the episode. Sabretooth Cat episode, I believe that's 21, also has Kelsey in it. And
That one was a fun episode. Highly recommend.
if you like hearing her on here, and want her to come back more, let us know. And then lastly, if you're interested in the Windy City Parafest, the link will be in the bio. If you're interested in the live stream, use code UUU for $5 off the live stream. And we hope to see you guys on that live stream too, because Sage and I most likely will be doing it because we will be also focused on a baby coming into the family.
That's so exciting.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens there. I think that is about it for today. Um, Kelsey, uh, you ready for the sign off?
Yes. And remember
To look for
the unknown
the unsolved.
and the unseen.
Bye, guys.
Bye.